Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a very big beer from River North Brewing Company. And River North is one of those brewers that we've done quite a bit on this channel and gotten their beers all from Tavour. River North based in Denver, Colorado. And a part of the last big series of beers that I got from River North is this very limited release, high ABV of multiple different styles. They had like 5, 6, 7 bottle collection. Not cheap, but some that if you wanted to, you could age for decades, literally. They're big beers. So this first one we're going to jump into today is part of their Vicennial series. It's a 2021 release of an Imperial Stout called Shadowman. This one clocks in at a whopping 16.9% ABV. It is a barrel-aged stout, though they didn't actually specify the type of barrels. So I don't know if it's just wood cask, if it's reused bourbon or some other kind of spirit, but nonetheless, that is what it says about the beer. Very limited release, only 99 cases, and this was release number 3 of this specific set of beers. In terms of label art, Shadowman, this one looks kind of cool, like an undercover agent, some kind of motif. Got a nice dark black label with kind of gold foil. This is what they have on all of these beer releases, and gold wax dipped. So yet again, the pointy end of our trusty bottle opener here to just score that wax out right underneath the edge of the cap. And that will hopefully give us a good point for gripping and getting this cap off. Yes, it did. That came right off. I'm just going to clean off some of that residual wax. So hopefully it doesn't drop in the beer when we pour. Huge aromas already coming off of this beer just out of the neck of the bottle. And 16.9% ABV, I'm not surprised. I expected it to be big, just getting it cracked. It smells huge. So pour into our trusty stout glass. Very dark, quite thick as it glugs out of there. I'm going to give it some agitation, give it a chance to form the best head that it can. And we'll probably get the whole bottle in there. Yes, we will. Great. Okay. Oh yeah, it smells like it's probably bourbon or some other kind of whiskey barrel aged. That's what I'm smelling on this strongly of whiskey. Visually, as expected, on a nearly 17% ABV Imperial Stout, it's absolutely pitch black. There's not even a hint of light getting through that. I cannot see any of the carbonation activity, but obviously it did a pretty good job. It formed a pretty nice head here. So let's get right over for a full sniff. Oh wow, yeah. There's a lot of big aroma on this. It definitely smells of bourbon or whiskey. It smells more bourbon-like to me because I'm getting a lot of notes of vanilla off of it. But in tandem with that, there's almost this slight maple aroma coming out of this. And you can clearly smell a lot of undercurrents of caramel and chocolate kind of vibes coming out of it. So with this big, rich, deep, dark malt bill, I'm not surprised. The long and short is it smells fantastic. So big beer, this will be a long, slow sipping beer. Let's jump right in for sip number 1. Oh, this is huge. That is an intensity of flavor not found in many beers. High ABV, it's very warming. Reminds you of taking a sip of bourbon or whiskey. This is a big beer, guys. Absolutely mammoth. River North, I've had a lot of their big beers. This is next level big. This is one of those you don't see that often, worth the experience if you can afford to do so kind of beers. I mean, just absolutely incredible. So the first thing I want to talk about here, because there are tons of layers of complexity happening on the flavor profile. Let's talk about the body and the mouthfeel first. It's nearly 17% ABV, and it looked quite thick pouring out of the glass, as you might expect. Yes, this is a very thick, resistant beer, mouthfeel-wise. Body, it's a full, robust, I mean, let's call it heavy, maybe borders medium heavy. It's a big, weighty, robust beer with a lot of thickness to it. and a ton of aroma and a ton of flavor compounds. So I think having an ABV this high with the beer that's this big and in your face, it really does pair well. The intensity of the aroma and the intensity of the flavor profiles really work well with this very, very large body and this very thick mouthfeel. Absolutely huge. Nothing subtle about this at all. This is a big, big, intense beer for people that like beers like that. No question about it. If you don't like them big and intense, this is probably not the beer for you. But if you do, this will be among the most intense I think you could get your hands on. Easily in the top 10 most intense flavor profiles on first sip I've had on any beer, period. So we're going to jump back in, second sip, let everything re-intensify. We will pick apart all these layers of complexity. We will talk about the balance and we'll talk about the finish. But on first sip, this is a very, very special beer indeed. Take two. Oh, big beer. On first swallow, the immediacy of the barrel, and to me it really does taste like bourbon. Can't confirm or deny if it is indeed bourbon, but it's some kind of whiskey spirit. That's what it tastes like. And there is a lot of barrel quality coming through, notably vanilla, but there's also a ton of molasses. That could be coming potentially from the barrel, depending on the spirit, but it could also easily be coming from this massive roasty malt bill. There is layer upon layer of molasses, toffee, caramel, almost like another beer we just did recently where it reminds me of like a dessert cake that's been like whiskey soaked, or like a rum soaked rum cake. It's just that intensity. It's dessert-like in its flavor profile, but the spirit just puts me in mind of a spirit-soaked sponge cake or bundt cake. It's absolutely fantastic. And there was a lot of cacao and even suggestions of milk chocolate. It's not a sweet beer, but I am getting kind of the impression of standard milk chocolate mixed with cacao. In this one, there are some coffee undertones as well. Those really come on the back end. Probably 30, 45 seconds after the intensity settles down a little bit. That's when I'm starting to get some of these other undercurrents. But it's got tons of layers and they're just ebbing and flowing all over the place. In terms of the balance, something like this really comes down to the balance between the barrel they chose for the aging process and certainly what they chose for their malt bill. This, I would say, the balance is picture perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about it. It's big and bold and in your face, and that is by design. Whatever spirit barrel they used for however long they left it in there, bravo, River North, job well done. And it pairs just beautifully with this big, intense malt bill. It's big, 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 big. So you put all of these things together and it just makes a massive beer drinking experience that just works. If any of these elements were out of whack, there might be one area where it's just a bit overpowering to the others, but the balance is picture perfect. Absolutely fantastic. In terms of the finish, yes, you might expect this already. It's exceedingly long. On the back end of this one, there's kind of a combination of two factors that I'm left with, and it is barrel and it's cacao. That's the two kind of big lingering flavors that I have sitting on the back of the palate. And it's very wet, it's very round. There's no dryness on the palate anywhere at all. And it just really lingers on the back very strongly of what I suspect is bourbon and cacao. Very, very big beer, guys, here. I've got several others from this same set I got from Tavour. I will be reviewing all of them. But if this first one is any indication of what these others might be like, we are in for a real treat. I'm going to take my time, sip on this beer, quote my scores. When we come back, we will get this one ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was River North Brewing Company's 2021 release of Shadowman, an Imperial Stout, clocking in at a whopping 16.9% ABV. This one was barrel aged, though I could not discern what type of barrels. I suspect it's bourbon, definitely some spirit. It could be a mixture of other barrels, but it does taste strongly of bourbon. River North is based in Denver, Colorado. So jumping right into this beer, this was one of a series. It came as a kind of collection of some of River North's more limited release beers in a Tavour package several months back. All of these very high ABV. You could literally age them for years and years. They are that high, but I decided I might keep one to just age, but I'm going to review the remainder. And this is the very first of those beers. So this is just another prime example of why I think Tavour is a really great service. They get deals with really top quality brewers. They're very specific with what beers they decide to grab to put out to the people that are buying from them. And it's not as exhaustive, at least certainly on a daily basis, but it's ever changing, ever rotating. They're always adding in new things. And River North is one of those brewers. I've had quite a few of their beers, most of them really big beers, and this was easily the biggest to date. So this beer, if we jump into the scores, there was only one category that it did not get a perfect score, and it only missed it by a hair. That was the head and the retention. Overall, this formed a really, really nice head in the beginning, but it did collapse just a touch quicker than I was hoping it would. Again, I imagine if they had this, I doubt that they would put it on a tap. That would be weird for a beer like this, but if they did, I'm sure it would have been absolute perfection. But poured it home from a glass, from a bottle into your glass, it is what it is. I have to rate it so, but I only docked 1 point. It only missed it by a hair. Head and retention gets a 9 out of 10, which does of course leave a perfect 10 out of 10 in the remaining 9 categories. That's aroma, taste, body, mouthfeel, finish, appearance, balance, feeling/intangible, my subjective thoughts category, and then example of the style. So the River North Vicennial 2021 release Shadowman does get a 99 out of 100. Guys, this is as close to perfection as it gets. Literally, I mean, I'm splitting hairs here, but I have to rate what I experience. It's completely objective, other than my single category for subjectivity, and I give it a perfect score. So look, 99, this is about as good as it gets. Easily one of the biggest beers I've ever had, both in terms of aroma and in flavor, just layers and layers of complexity, just big, bold, in-your-face, barrel-aged Imperial Stout awesomeness. I absolutely loved it. I've got another 4, 5, 6 of these beers that I got from that Tavour order, and we will be reviewing those. But if this is even a suggestion of what we're about to get into, we are in for a real treat. Folks, that is today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on the notifications, hit the bell icon. It is right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.